From any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. 3, 2, 1. Now live from the Devil Radio Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Here is your host, Mike Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. It will be a whopper of a Wednesday edition right here. Fancy Brain, lovely to see you again.
It feels lovely to be seen.
You know, the whole Whopper Wednesday, I take it literally. You know, I influence.
It's because you get a Whopper every. I was wondering.
I did actually get a Whopper on Wednesday
because I was sometimes like you don't seem to save the big stories for Wednesday. I'm trying to figure out why the Whopper. Now I've made the connection.
Whopper right up the road, baby.
My
Gut
namesake,
bomb,
the BK.
right here. The BK, yeah. Well, fancy BK. If they only had the fancy BK broiler.
That I was sent out when I was a manager of the high school football team for a lot of different reasons. I was sent out to always get a BK broiler.
Yeah, no kidding.
Pretty awesome.
That is awesome. Your namesake. We're gonna have a whopper of a show, I hope. First and foremost, my Wisconsin State Senator announced today he's retiring. Jon Erpanbach, and he's a friend. I mean, I've known this guy since our daughter. I've known this guy for at least 13 years. Lived in Milton for some period of time. So in the 4 o'clock happy hour, let's call it the Wisconsin happy hour today, the retiring state senator, Jon Erpanbach, joins me, 4:05. So looking forward to that. Although it's a little sad, a little bit sad, but moving on to bigger and better, I hope. Jon's a relatively newlywed. Maybe he's got, big plans, travel, something of the sort. You're looking at me like there's no punchline, just newlywed. But here's the first story that caught my attention today. And each day I find myself in this constant battle. What is the lead? Well, here it is. I've got the lead. I got your lead, Wisconsin. I've got your lead, people all across the nation, the world. Let the war on Christmas begin.
Oh, I've been waiting for this.
There's a man in custody. Somebody has burnt down the Foxy Christmas tree, the Fox News Christmas tree. It is burned down, and apparently a man has been arrested. Arson, I think, the charge.
I would say.
This is perhaps not as important as some of the headlines. Apparently we're perhaps teetering on the brink of a world war. But the war on Christmas tree, that will be the lead on Fox News tonight. I feel relatively confident. So why not here? So anyways, here's a little coverage from the Hill. Police in New York City arrested a suspect after the Christmas tree outside Fox News headquarters burned in a fire Wednesday morning. Damn. The massive fire, as it's described here, captured in a number of photos and videos that quickly circulated online. That's called going viral, folks. Showed flames and smoke billowing through the tree, which is located in an outdoor plaza just steps outside the network's world headquarters in Midtown Manhattan.
Oh my God, we're burning alive!
Oh, it's some dynamic video out there. I think just for, the spirit of the season, you should all go look at the video. You'll find it. It's viral. Police told the New York Times overnight the fire started shortly after midnight and did not cause any injuries. Well, that's something to be thankful for. A 49-year-old man was in custody in connection with the fire, police said, but authorities did not identify him or give any details on the fire. It was not me. I'm 51, just for the record.
I don't think they would have let you out.
Oh, me? Oh, I would have talked my way out. Giving them the dimples. Oh, it was burning when I got here, officer.
I was blowing on it to put it out.
In a memo to staff on Wednesday morning, Fox News Media CEO Suzanne Scott called the incident malicious arson. We are very grateful to the fire department in New York, which quickly mobilized to extinguish the fire, in the NYPD, which apprehended the criminal on site, who has since been charged with arson, among multiple other crimes. The 50-foot tall All-American tree, not a Christmas tree, the All-American tree. They're even battling their own war on Christmas. Here's the saddest part. It had a reported 10,000 ornaments and 100,000 lights, and it was ceremonially lit on Sunday. Didn't last long. You know, I usually throw my tree out right after Christmas. Don't want a fire hazard in the house. That's why.
Yeah, they get a little dry.
Here's a little bit of sound from, well, at least a quote from Brian Kilmeade. You know that guy. He's the brunette, brain surgery, surgeon type. Very smart guy.
Yeah. Vacant stare, black lifeless eyes.
Here's what Brian Kilmeade said. Brian, the traditional spelling, not the fancy kind. This is just beyond tragic and angers everybody. A little bit more here. Ultimately, it comes down to what kind of a person lights a Christmas tree on fire, as co-host Steve Ducey, saying eyewitnesses saw a person climbing up the tree with newspapers before the blaze started. What do they call that? An accelerant? Ducey said it would be symbolic for Fox News to put up another tree. This is part of a bigger problem, Kilmeade said. It's the crime surge in this country. There is so much crime in places that were always safe, including 48th and 6th right here. This is emblematic of those cities out of control. A little bit more here. Defame and defund the police and this bail reform that these men and women, these assailants, these suspects out there, before they could even finish the paperwork. This is what you get when you have these left-wing DAs running these cities. You get chaos, according to the quote here at thehill.com.
Or some guy just thought it'd be funny to light a tree on fire.
A very fired up Steve Ducey, if you know what I'm saying. So I got to tell you, nobody wants to see an arson fire. Certainly not your insurance company. But I can tell you, if there's something to find gleeful about the holidays, it's the fact that the American tree down at the Foxy News is burnt down. And, I find this ironic. On the very same day that Fox News gave me a call and invited me back on.
That's
third time will be the charm.
Are they going to come on and are you going to talk specifically about your knowledge of trees because of your, tree controversy?
Well,
history?
I do actually have a history, if you will, with trees. And here in the Wisconsin state capitol, they didn't have a tree last year, the whole COVID pandemic. Normally, they get this enormous spruce or whatever, and they decorate it up with the homemade, the kids' ornaments and whatever. It's a beautiful thing, normally. But last year, the pandemic killed the Christmas tree before the fires could. And in the state capitol, well, Republicans, they came up with their tree. And I think I've told the story. I decorated their tree, and then they stole my ornaments. So then, they did like a second tree because the Department of Administration eventually took down their illegal, non-permitted Christmas tree, took their tree with my garland. They swiped the garland. Apparently they thought, it made the tree look nicer, and it did. Truth be known, my garland enhanced their tree, but it was taken down by the DOA and apparently returned to the perpetrators of the crime. Couple of backbencher Republicans, guys like Shea Sortwell and Rantham, this guy who's, now front and center on the whole, let's overturn the outcome of the last election. There seemingly is a Venn diagram, and it kind of intersects at Christmas trees and COVID Christmas carols and the big lie.
They did not like my singing. I rewrote a lot of stuff.
They didn't like my singing either.
I rewrote the lyrics to their songs and tried to expose them for not showing up the entire year of the pandemic.
Well, they had made the announcement. Even though the building was locked to the general public, they invited us to join them for Christmas caroling.
Door was open when I walked in.
Well, someone opened it for me, but, we won't talk about that till I get to court. But I showed up with a devil tree, and we've talked about it, decorated with ornaments that were like glued on, hardwired onto the false tree. I bought the
A
tree.
lot of effort.
Oh, there was hours worth of effort. And I decorated the balls with the pictures, the blue book pictures of backbench Republicans from the great state of Wisconsin.
They were very interested in that.
And then I drew on their faces just a little facial hair like I have, sort of a devilish, Fu Man and some horns. The men, the women, they all got them. I'm equal opportunity devilish.
Oh, yeah.
And, became a point of contention. Dueling trees and all that kind of stuff. So, I think we replaced the Foxy News tree with a gigantic devil tree.
I think it'd be great. And then you could have, because it'd be taller, you can actually add all of the members of Congress as well. Do it a nationwide devil tree.
Oh, I like the sound.
Expand it. You may need to start now because,
the devil on top of the tree last year, U.S. Senator Ron Johnson from the great state of Wisconsin. At that time, he was singularly blocking relief checks to the American people.
You know what? He earned that spot.
$1,400
He worked
checks.
hard to earn that spot.
Oh, he had,
and he's continued to maintain it. Very good.
He has a special spot in hell, Ron Johnson, or on the devil tree as the case may be. But Fox News, they invited me to come on the big program next weekend, not this weekend. This weekend, I would have said no, having our own little Christmas soiree this weekend. And next weekend, even worse, Fancy Brian, I was sneaking off a little bit for the holidays, going away on a little Vegas vacation. But Fox News called and they said, hey, can you come on the big show? So I set a few parameters and I'll share them with you and we'll come back. We'll talk about it a little bit more. But the final answer, the moral of the story, Crudy's going on Fox News live from my Vegas vacation. Before the holidays, you can all watch. We'll promote it and all that kind of stuff. And you may ask, why does Crudy go on Fox News? Well, what they say, the criminal always returns to the scene of the crime. I did not burn down the Christmas tree. Probably. I promise. It probably wasn't me. Come back with us, Devil's Advocates. We're going to have a big show. 844-967-2789. You might even call it a Whopper.
Fire, fury, and frankly, power.
The devil tree by
Crew.
an experience like none other.
Flames on the side of my face.
I think I did our country a great fire.
Your cars.
It's 4 a.m. and you're sucking baby snot through a tube because she's congested. If you love her that much, love her enough to make sure she's buckled in the right car seat. Find out more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
600,000 Wisconsin families are receiving checks to help take care of their kids thanks to the expanded child tax credit passed by Joe Biden and congressional Democrats. Ron Johnson voted against these checks for Wisconsin families, despite voting for a 2017 tax break that put more money into the pockets of millionaires like himself. It's time to vote Ron Johnson out of office. MoveOn.org political action, paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Poll.moveon.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
President Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates, and he would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org.
Okay, men, time to be an all-star caregiver. Drive them to physical therapy, doctor's appointments, be there emotionally and physically. Don't give up. Don't ever give up.
Caregiving is tougher than tough. Find care guides at aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hi, Don from Wisco Home Goods here. Jeremy and I handcraft our 100% non-toxic candles from locally sourced materials in our Madison, Wisconsin facility. Wisco Home Goods candles come in a variety of unique blends and scents that you're sure to love. Add a little warmth to your home as the days get colder with one of our Midnight Cypress or Up North candles. Order at wiscohomegoods.com. Natural, healthy, nourishing candles and more at wiscohomegoods.com.
Yeah.
Devil's Advocates. Because freedom.
Vegas, baby, Vegas!
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Tragic news out of Fox Square Plaza in New York, Midtown Manhattan. The Foxy American tree has burned, baby, burn. And it probably was not me. Probably.
I just want to see like the Republican equivalent of Chevy Chase running in with I need a tree. So I got a tree. Lewis burned my tree. So I got a new tree. And then it's filled with squirrels and all that.
Maybe they could call the Four Seasons landscapers.
Yes. They're going to come over and then, hey, I heard your
relationship finally going to pay dividends for the Republicans.
Where are you going to put a tree that big? I wasn't talking to you.
Before we talk about my next scheduled appearance on the Foxy News, let's get Rhoda Romney McDaniel. I don't think she uses the Romney much anymore, but we do. Rhoda Romney McDaniel. She is the RNC chairwoman. And she had comment to make about this burnt up Christmas tree. Oh, it's going to be a problem for Democrats. Play it for the people. Cut 5, please.
The Democrats have every reason to worry. So what is the prediction you are making today about the 2022 midterm elections?
Well, Sandra, based on what we saw a few weeks ago in Virginia and Pennsylvania, New Jersey, what this poll is telling us is we're going to take back the House and the Senate, and the American people want to change. Biden's underwater. Harris's approval is under 30%. And Republicans are more trusted on 3 key issues: the economy, inflation, and crime. And these are issues we're seeing every day on our streets, around our home, and our communities. On the news, look at your Christmas tree that was just burned down. This is a huge problem for Democrats. And another key indicator from this poll is that Biden is underwater with Hispanic voters. 54% of Hispanic voters disapprove of President Biden. This bodes well for Republicans heading into 2022.
Former governor of New Jersey,
Rhoda Romney McDaniel, appearing, I suspect, on the Foxy News. So they called me, or more accurately, I got an email and they asked me, would you be willing to come back on this, fair and balanced news platform? And I thought to myself, hell, why not? I always go on right wing, whatever. You invite me, I'm a media whore. Sure, I'll do it. I've been at CNN. Hell, they came into our studios, right? Milwaukee. And they, sort of featured us through the impeachment of Donald J. Trump. We broadcast the entire thing, gavel to gavel. And I was on C-SPAN. That's a little less dynamic. And this is the 3rd time I've been invited on the Foxy News.
A couple more times, you get a gold jacket, right?
Oh, do I? Is it like that? Is it like hosting Saturday Night Live or winning the Masters?
I'm not sure they appreciate literally anyone or acknowledge the humanity of any human being, but that's fine.
The last time I was on Fox News was last summer. I believe June, around my birthday. Jim and I am.
Yeah, you got picked up at the campsite, right?
Well, I did. We have a camper now. We got a camper during the pandemic. All my wife's idea. And she paid for it. So what am I going to say? I go camping occasionally. But this particular weekend, it was a camping weekend for the Crudy family. And we're up at our camper. And they said, hey, can you go on the Foxy News Sunday? Okay, I guess. I knew I was going to party my ass off on Saturday night. That's what you do at a camper in Wisconsin. Campgrounds, and they got a camper bar and camper bar band kind of stuff. It's all, it's all a good drunken weekend. And then get up and go on the Foxy News. But here's the problem. I knew I was going to unplug a little bit for a couple days, and I wouldn't be prepared for all the headlines. And my understanding, the only indication I got the last time I was going on Fox News, Mr. Crute, we want you to, basically own and defend Joe Biden's border policies. And it's a disaster. And what are you going to do about it? You and Joe Biden. Like, I've got some policy, chops, or could actually move the needle in some way, shape, or form by talking to this fair audience that we do right here on the Devil's Advocates. So I said yes, and didn't realize at the time, but they offered me a car. I said, my only fear is if I got to drive myself to the big interview, and you use a local TV station, so it's not like they're flying me out to New York or anything. First time they invited me on Fox News, I said, where's my airline tickets? I'm going to need business class at minimum. So anyways, getting off cheap with the car. And they said nice car. It was nice. It was like, Lincoln or something. Got to sit in the back. Very, very black tie sort of a deal. And so, my precursor this time is I'm going to need a car. It's going to have to come to my my casino there and pick me up at the casino because, I get into Vegas the night before. I might be, up late at the tables. So anyways, I've arranged ground transportation to a secret broadcast destination in Las Vegas. And I will be appearing on the Foxy News channel about noon on Sunday, the 19th. We'll update you. Fair audience. And I got some fine guest hosts all that week, including Fancy Brian and Luke. You guys are doing the dueling tangents 3 hours that day.
You get 3 hours of the most delicious show ever.
And I got Matt Flynn from Matt Flynn Direct. He's going to fill in on Tuesday. And on Wednesday, I've got James Santel, a crowd favorite, former U.S. attorney. He's going to be your devil for the day. And that whole week, Crudy's going to start in Vegas. We're actually going to go out to Zion. I hear it's lovely there. Zion National Park. Kelsey loves it. Our daughter, who lives in LA, is going to meet us out there. We're all going to venture out to Zion together. And then, home in time for Christmas Eve, I hope. Hope we don't miss a connecting flight. Actually, I only take direct flights. I hate flying.
I too hate flying. I'm 6'5" and I'm very large, and you don't want to put Hulk in a box like that. That's why I sedate myself very much before I go on.
Direct flights only. Vegas. If I can't get a direct flight, I'm not going to Vegas, baby.
I'm kind of like B.A. Baracus in that way.
Yeah. Your prediction, pain. When Ronan McDaniel, when anyone says your prediction, the correct answer is Clubber Lang. Mr. T, formerly. Well, he's still Mr. T, but was on the A team. Different show though.
I pity the fool sitting next to me on a plane.
But whenever someone says your prediction, the answer, my prediction is pain. Come back with us. More Devils.
Why don't you give me half the money you were going to bet? Then we'll go out there. I'll kick you in the nuts and we'll call it a day.
That's disgusting. Put it away, please.
I wasn't talking to you.
Oh, Devil Radio. Good thing I brought my horns.
At Knuckleheads, our knowledgeable staff knows the ins and outs of CBD. Whether you're a veteran of cannabis like the Devil Radio team or a first-time customer, the Knuckleheads team has the information to answer all your CBD questions. Never heard of a tincture? We got you covered. Looking for something to address those achy joints? We got just the thing. Stop into our new location at 520 State Street and mention Devil Radio to our knowledgeable staff to get 15% off your order today. Knuckleheads, your one-stop shop for CBD in Madison.
The cold weather is coming, and for a lot of Wisconsinites, that means hibernating inside your house and praying for a good football season. But you could have an unwelcome guest in the house, and I don't mean a Vikings fan. I'm talking about radon, the second leading cause of lung cancer. Now, don't panic. You can work around it, but first you have to find out if you even have it. Work with the pros at Orion Inspections. That's Orion, like the constellation, not the Irish guy. Schedule your test today at orioninspections.com.
Coronavirus update. I'm Ed Donahue with an AP News Minute. Stocks finished higher, the Dow up 35 points. The U.S. reached a milestone, 200 million fully vaccinated people, but cases and hospitalizations are still spiking. The Senate is in line to approve a resolution overturning the Biden administration's requirement businesses with 100 or more workers have their employees vaccinated against the coronavirus or submit to weekly testing. Steve Daines is a Republican from Montana.
Every so often, Washington, D.C. does something that lights up the phone lines. This is one of these moments.
Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says people should trust the science.
The biggest thing standing between us and the end of the pandemic is Americans who have refused to get vaccinated.
The World Health Organization says early evidence suggests the Omicron variant may be spreading faster than the highly transmissible Delta variant, but is less severe. I'm Ed Donahue.
Tried Eucrisa for mild to moderate eczema? It works at and below the skin surface and can be used on almost everybody, like on the dimples of a diva. Yeah, roll your boat. Yeah, roll your boat. Or the shoulders of a chef. Look, Mom, I made jelly beans on toast. Steroid-free Eucrisa works at and below the skin surface. It blocks PDE4 enzymes, which is believed to reduce inflammation, even on the wrist of a rebel.
What did you do to your hair?
What?
The specific way Eucrisa works is not well defined. Prescription Eucrisa for mild to moderate eczema is for topical use only in ages 3 months and up. Do not use if you are allergic to Eucrisa, crisaborole ointment 2%, or its ingredients. Allergic reactions, including hives, itching, swelling, and redness, may occur at or near the application site. The most common side effect is application site pain, such as burning or stinging.
Come on, moms and dads. Check out eucrisa.com and ask your doctor about Eucrisa.
Can I sing one more song?
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. Former Supreme Court Justice Michael Gableman has hired an individual with a history of posting racist tropes and conspiracy theories on social media. Ron Hoyer, the staffer in question, is also the chairman of the Kewaunee County Republican Party and president of the Wisconsin Voters Alliance, which sued last year in an attempt to overturn Wisconsin's 2020 election results. This week, the conservative Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty concluded its 10-month review of Wisconsin's 2020 election, confirming Joe Biden won the state's 10 electoral votes and found no evidence of widespread voter fraud. The conservative firm did state that questioning how the election was conducted in 2020 does not undermine the results, denying the connection of reviewing the election as propping up what has become to be known as the Big Lie. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
The Devil's Advocates, rock and roll political commentary in a top 40 world.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. You know, Fancy Brian, I went to a Christmas party last night.
I was envious of you going to that Christmas party myself.
I went to a little soiree being thrown in Waukesha. That's sort of a conservative part of Wisconsin, an hour or so down the road. And I was invited there by our friend Kristen Hansen and the crew with Blue Skies Waukesha. Shout out to those fine people. But, you know, since I was coming near Milwaukee, I'd made plans to hang out with my little buddy Dominic.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah, it's been some time since I even said the man's name aloud, at least on the radio. And so I know some of you have been asking, how's he doing? Well, first and foremost, it appears, and this is going to be a shocker to pretty much anyone that knows Dominic, I think he's gainfully employed.
What?
Yeah. So he's at the new job, and I think he's happy so far. We didn't talk a lot about the job.
See, I thought you were going to say he's just doing just fine, because no matter what happens, Dom will be doing just fine. He could be in the middle of a war zone and things going around all over it. He's got sipping a tequila at the bar because he's just doing all right.
Find a loose joint on the ground and be smoking it.
Totally good.
A freebie.
That's what I love about him.
He is a lovable guy. And so I sat at the bar, and I was at the Clark Hotel in Waukesha. Beautiful location that Democrats often, or Democratic, friendly organizations like Blue Skies Waukesha, often use this lovely downtown Waukesha hotel, and it's got a bar and a restaurant. So I plopped down, and there's like 4 people in the bar. It's a Tuesday night, and the partying sorts, the Blue Skies Waukesha people, well, they were over in the party room. But late as usual. See you at 6:30, and then I get a text like 15 minutes later, 6:45. And it goes on from there. So the party starts at 7. I was invited to the party, and I'm supposed to hang out with Dom for a bit. So anyways, I had a couple of appetizers at the bar and a double or so, and then Dom shows up. And apparently, and this will be good news to everyone that knows Dom, he is converted from summer booze to winter booze.
Oh, he's on the scotch now?
He's back to scotch.
He's on the scotch.
Well, I was buying, so he's on the very good scotch. But moved on from tequila. You know what the occasion that marked the turn of liquor?
What was this?
The Detroit Lions win, apparently.
Oh, the first Lions win of the season is a celebratory scotch. He's on tequila otherwise.
He's got a little ink, and the very first tattoo he ever got. I got my only tattoo the same day he got that one. He's got the Detroit D. He's married to it.
Well, the Detroit D is one thing, but if you got, I don't think he's got a Lions logo on there at least.
Have you seen the tramp stamp? I'm just saying.
Well, I have not. At least it's usually dark when I do, but I shouldn't get into that.
So anyways, we're partying at the Clark Hotel, just, 10, 15 minutes into our conversation. And the guy there comes over and says, I'm going to have to throw you boys out.
What?
And I'm like, what's the problem? He goes, you guys are very profane.
It's a very proper Waukesha area.
And I'm looking around and I'm thinking, who am I offending though? I'm offended by the bad service here. No offense, but I was a little offended. The guy didn't come around. Well, if you didn't like the tone of my language, come tell me something. So anyways, the guy says, if you can't stop with the profanities, we're going to have to ask you to leave. And I said, I can't make you any promises. And the guy says, let me get your check.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah, it was kind of my attitude. So anyways, me and Dom, moved into the soiree and we saw the nice Blue Skies Waukesha people. And we had a fine party without, the profanities at the bar. I can't believe that. The last time I got shushed in a bar, I think it inspired us to do the Devil's Advocates radio show. That was like 10 years ago.
That's my favorite. That's one of my favorite things to do in a bar, by the way.
Is be profane and argue politics?
No.
I mean, an Irish bar. What do you mean I can't swear in
No,
here?
I'm not talking about that, but just go into any random group setting. Go into it really works in like a food court or something where there's a lot of people. I know it worked a lot better during the pandemic, of course, or before the pandemic. But if you go into a group setting and just go shh, everyone around will just automatically go. Oh. And it's amazing, just the social experiment you can make. Just so when you say shushing in the bar, I like to actually literally shush people in bars because I like to see how fast it works.
I feel quite confident. I'm probably the first one that ever swore in a bar at happy hour, and there were no families. Literally, I mean, had it been like a Chili's or something, your neighborhood family restaurant / bar, and kids at every table, I wouldn't have been so profane.
I'm having,
but Don brings it out of me.
I'm having a hard time thinking of some sort of establishment that is so upscale in Waukesha that it's like you're swearing too much. I'm sorry. You're going to have to leave or get the kids out of the club today. Yes.
So anyway, there's your Dom update, as profane as ever, and apparently gainfully employed. So Merry Christmas to you, little buddy. Hope you're doing well. We'll catch up with Dom in the new year. He promised at some point he's going to call in and air a grievance or several. He's kind of build it up.
I'd say write a list, but I'm pretty sure you'd write it down and then not use it.
Anyways, back to the politics for at least a few minutes here. 844-967-2789. You can be a part of this show. But, this whole thought that the Dems are going to pay a price, according to what? Rona Romney McDaniel, the RNC chair, for the burning Foxy Christmas tree. Crime on the streets and arsonists burning down people's Christmas trees right in Midtown Manhattan and all that kind of stuff.
Cats and dogs living together, mass hysteria.
Well, here's the fault in Rona Romney McDaniel's logic, to my opinion. Have you looked in the mirror? Have you seen your party? And I understand the polling right now quite negative for the Democratic Party. But you notice your party of late? Did you notice the Christmas cards your team's sending out? How about that Thomas Massey of Kentucky? Do you see him and the whole family sitting around with the AR-15s?
And the timing of it was just so sweet right after a school shooting. But to be fair, there's enough school shootings that pretty much anything you put out will be right after a school shooting.
Well, the Massey family, the message they sent out, Merry Christmas, P.S. Santa, please bring ammo.
Wow. That's great.
And not to be outdone, somebody topped the Masseys. Better than the Masseys, well, Lauren Boebert, the congresswoman from Colorado. You You've heard of her. Boebert and her entire family, well, they similarly celebrated with a festive Christmas photo in front of the tree, AR-15s from the youngest to the oldest, and said something to the effect, yeah, Merry Christmas back, but we don't have any spare ammo. No ammo to spare.
Oh, okay.
Not a square to spare.
Okay.
Not a full metal jacket for you, Massey. See how clever they are?
It reminds me of that old tradition back in the medieval times when, Santa would bring by a claymore for all the young kids to play with.
Well, there's a interesting little column, Jennifer Rubin, over at the Washington Post. The Democratic Party might consider closing up shop and finding other work if it doesn't run ads in the 2022 election, featuring a clip of Rep. Matt Gaetz. And we've got the clip, don't we, Fancy Brian? You are the hardest working man in radio. Fancy Brian played for the people. Matt Gaetz, Congressman, Florida man Matt Gaetz, cut one.
It has been 174 days since my colleagues and I sent a letter to FBI Director Wray asking basic questions about the FBI's involvement in January 6th. Americans should not be languishing in hideous, unconstitutional conditions, waiting for basic answers like this. Waiting for basic answers regarding evidence, waiting for access to counsel. This report must be a guidepost for ongoing Republican oversight effort in the Congress, because we are going to take power after this next election. And when we do, it's not going to be the days of Paul Ryan and Trey Gowdy and no real oversight and no real subpoenas. It's going to be the days of Jim Jordan and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Dr. Gosar and myself doing everything to get the answers to these questions.
I'm really proud of what we've been able to do.
Does he not remember Benghazi? I mean, Trey Gowdy and the whole crew, the 11 hours and Hillary Clinton giving testimony. At this point, what difference does it make?
That's so many hundreds of years ago.
Well, it's not like they didn't do any investigatory work. And as Jennifer Rubin takes note, and she also quotes Matt Gaetz, voters cannot say they were not warned. The polite, sane GOP is gone. Voters will have a choice in 2022 between Democrats tethered to the center and a party run by those who sought to overturn the election, who concoct insane conspiracy theories, who defend animations. I think she's talking about Gosar, depicting the murder of other members of Congress who are willing to default on the national debt, who voted overwhelmingly against an infrastructure bill, and who just might decide the former president and insurrection instigator, Donald Trump, should be Speaker of the House. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy is delusional if he thinks the MAGA wing of his party will support him for the position should Republicans win the majority. So writes Rubin a little bit more. Is there a more potent recipe for chaos in a constitutional crisis than putting this crowd in power? Writes Rubin, question mark. Trump is intent on finding the most radical candidates, so long as they're loyal to him, to challenge the few Republicans who had the nerve to stand up to him. The MAGA cultists will gladly double down on the big lie of stolen elections and whatever conspiracy theories are in fashion at the moment to please their patron. Indeed, adoption of the big lie is a prerequisite for getting MAGA support. Think Ron Johnson. Although Rubin references a few others. In Wyoming, Trump's pick, Harriet Hageman, is out to vindicate Trump and run his nemesis, Republican Rep. Liz Cheney, out of the House. In Ohio's 13th congressional district, he's backed Max Miller, who's been accused of abuse by former Trump press secretary Stephanie Grisham when they dated, a charge Miller strenuously denied. Ryan Zinke, forced to resign under a cloud of scandal from his post as Interior Secretary, Trump hired only the best people, has received Trump's nod in Montana's 2nd congressional district. And in Florida 13th, Trump has tapped right-wing media personality Anna Paulina Luna. She's a little Luna. For the Senate, Trump has systematically lifted the most loyal and extreme contenders, thereby strengthening Democrats' prospects in Pennsylvania, Alaska, North Carolina, and Georgia. And even where Democrats' chances are slim, his endorsements of unhinged candidates such as Rep. Mo Brooks, a speaker at the Stop the Steal rally on January 6th, wasn't he the guy that said he's there, to kick some ass or something of the sort? Mo Brooks. And also, there's the Alabama Senate seat. Well, that's the one he's supporting Brooks for. Will cement the party's image as full of Trump's pawns and chaos makers. So much for running on the Glenn Youngkin playbook. Trump is not ignoring gubernatorial races either, having tapped former losing Georgia Senate candidate David Perdue to run as the pro-Trump big lie defender candidate against incumbent Republican Brian Kemp of Georgia. As Georgia Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan, an outspoken Republican Trump critic, told the Associated Press, it's going to be a political civil war here in Georgia. It's all avoidable, and if we just act like adults and move on, but that's not really reality at this point. As Rubin writes, no, not by a long shot. So if I'm supposed to be a little nervous about the crime on the streets, personified by, God forbid, the burning of the all-American Christmas tree down at the Foxy News studios, if this indeed is what's going to cost the Democrats the House and perhaps the future impeachment of Joe Biden, because if, Republicans get the House, they're going to impeach Joe Biden. But look at what they're working with. It ain't exactly a full deck over there. Come back with us. Devil's Advocates, the phone lines, they're starting to pick up a little bit. You could be in queue at 844-967-2789.
Entre nous, I'm very busy here. Why don't you take the kids and go back to the clubhouse? I don't feel turn. I'm suggesting that you leave before I have to get snooty.
COVID-19 vaccines are starting to become available across the country. Now is the time to get informed. Get the latest information at getvaccineanswers.org. It's up to you. A message brought to you by the Ad Council and the CDC.
600,000 Wisconsin families are receiving checks to help take care of their kids thanks to the expanded child tax credit passed by Joe Biden and congressional Democrats. Ron Johnson voted against these checks for Wisconsin families, despite voting for a 2017 tax break that put more money into the pockets of millionaires like himself. It's time to vote Ron Johnson out of office. MoveOn.org political action, paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertisement. Poll.moveon.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Spruce up your home with non-toxic vegan candles from Wisco Home Goods. I'm Don, one of the owners of this family-owned Midwestern business in Madison, Wisconsin. Our candles are 100% sustainable and come in a variety of unique blends and scents that make a perfect holiday gift. Plus, at Wisco Home Goods, we believe in giving back. With our Do Good, Smell Good campaign, a portion of the proceeds go to local charities. So support a Midwestern company that supports our local communities. Order now at wiscohomegoods.com.
If you love them enough to barely sleep, then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're in the right car seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates.
Mike Lindell, the My Pillow guy, explains why God kicked Trump out of the White House. This is a spiritual battle of epic proportions. What? There's going to be so many people coming to Jesus. It is Devil Radio, man. Suck it, God, in this case. Please don't strike me dead with lightning, God. So, I'm just doing it for the show's sake.
Yeah, right.
Work with me on this.
That's all I'm at. You're hurting God right now, Rudy.
Kicking ass and taking names since the Wisconsin uprising. The Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. The phone line's starting to pick up a little. We're going there next at 844-967-2789. A pal of mine who's definitely been thrown out of a party or two for being just a skosh too profane. How you doing, Profane Ronnie?
Hiya, honey. So I got to ask you about this being shushed. Was it the same bartender as all the previous years? a guy maybe our age, brown hair, glasses.
Oh, he definitely had glasses. I believe his name was Tom. And Tom gave me a stern lecture.
So you don't remember, this happened 2 years ago.
Was I drunk then? Was I swearing too much then as well?
No, I think all four of us were, because it was me, my friend Steve, you and Dom. Maybe Kristen was there, maybe somebody else. It was after the meeting, and we all hung out there and we were talking, and talking about the Trump administration and everything crazy that was going on. And he comes over and real dry, he says, "I'm sorry, but we don't tolerate that kind of language here." And we all were like waiting for the punchline. We were just silent looking at him, and then we all realized he was serious. And
I know that's Ronnie. Apparently, I was too drunk to remember the last time that I was shushed in that bar, but I certainly didn't think he was being serious. I wouldn't have been snarky in response. And the funniest part is Dom and I have been on the radio together, and in almost 10 years. I think collectively we swore 4 times between us in 10 years on the radio. But sitting there, even after he said it, oh, Ronnie, there was no way Dom could not swear. We had to go into the party because he's just a filthy little boy. Filthy. But it was good seeing him, man. I missed that guy.
Oh, if I would have known he was going to be there, I would have stepped in after my thing. Damn it.
Oh, there you go. Being all profane again.
Yeah.
We don't tolerate that sort of behavior here, Ronnie.
Liar.
No, we encourage it.
Oh, yeah.
Any other thoughts, sister?
Remind you that no, I just wanted to remind you that we have all been shushed there.
Same guy shushing me again. There will not be a third lifetime shushing at that hotel bar. Probably. Unless I forget again.
He's a serial shusher.
Apparently. 844-967-2789. Joe from Madison. Welcome back, Joe. What do you got for us?
Oh, I'm just seething with a grievance today, so get the fire extinguisher out. I'm ready to roll here. You did a fabulous job over the last 2 days and today in covering some just really critical stuff. And I'm talking about the work that you did with an interview from the guys from the Elections Commission on Monday, which everybody should listen to, and the work that you did yesterday when talking about Milwaukee and the intense pressures that city faces, and particularly when Pizza Box called to talk about the woes facing his African-American children in terms of how harshly they are judged compared to others. So I've thrown into the mix here, I don't know if you saw this story or not, but there's a Wisconsin National Guardsman that is going to be sentenced on Friday for his participation in the January 6th insurrection. He was in the Capitol with the rest of the seditionists, and he was in there for 40 minutes. And he is in the National Guard, okay? He's in the National Guard. His name is Markovsky. He is in the National Guard out of a unit out of River Falls, Wisconsin. And he was, of course, trying to seek to get a reduction in his sentence. Not surprising he would try to do that. But what's even more amazing is that the officers over him who are seeking to get an easy ride for him, they include one officer, 4 non-commissioned officers, and a junior rank soldier who was his team leader. And one of the lines that they said about him that I thought you guys would just so appreciate was said, that they have no doubt that this guy should continue in service because, quote, it was a lapse of judgment on his part. Now, wouldn't that include most any criminal act is a lapse of judgment on their part? And here we have a soldier, a national
youthful indiscretions.
Oh my God! I don't think swearing oath to uphold the Constitution, which is the peaceful transfer of power, which doesn't include storming the Capitol to try to hang the vice president, but yet we are supposed to say it was a lapse in judgment. So it isn't even the National Guardsmen who should be hung high if we're going to hang people high. It's the people above him who are just whitewashing what the guy did instead of saying, yeah, buddy, you made a big old boo-boo and you deserve what's coming down the road. Instead, it's a lapse in judgment. So I guess I would encourage the rest of us to think of other ways we could have just a simple lapse in judgment. For example, you forget to pay your taxes. Lapse in judgment, right?
Only the suckers pay taxes, Joe. I meant to not pay them.
So at any rate, here we are, just a nice example within the military of cover your, not just your ass, but other people. So,
that's
my grievance.
An unusual circumstance you described. That has not been my experience with the military. The military, to my experience, was kind of like the old wait till your dad gets home, because it wasn't enough. If you got in trouble in civilian life, you were going to get a double ass kicking when, Uncle Sam got home. You were under additional scrutiny, as at least I was, as an enlisted guy during time of war. And I went AWOL briefly, like for an hour, because I'm always walking on the edge, Joe. And I was at basic training. I was one of the assistant platoon leader, squad leader type guys. And I had the authority to go to the PX without supervision of drill sergeant. I was able to go get foot powder or whatever the guys needed. I just wanted to go use the phone. This was way before cell phones. So, I used the authority of being able to leave barracks, and I snuck off and I used the phone. And apparently a lot of guys did that day. Because when I got caught, I got a lot of extra work detail. I got slammed by the military, and my crime was out of the barracks without proper leave, even though I was wearing, rank, even though I had sort of permission from the drill sergeant to do what I had to do, even though he didn't give me permission to go make personal phone calls. So, I broke the rules, but I got double hammered by the Army. It's not usually the Army covers your ass. It's just the opposite.
Yeah, January 6th might have had something to do with it. Don't you think that?
Yeah, it might, Joe. One last thought. I had a buddy, and he broke a guy's jaw, and we were into basic training. And this Schmitty, this big kid from Brooklyn, looked a lot like Mike Tyson, and he was built like Mike Tyson. He's a quiet, peaceful guy, but there are some guys infringing on our formation. We're getting ready to go off to war soon, and you just don't break another platoon's formation. These guys didn't know. They were a week into boot camp or a few days. So anyways, little small fights had broken out. And this one back talking kid starts talking smack to our drill sergeant. And the drill sergeant finally got frustrated, and he said, "Schmitty, get him." And that kid's jaw was broken. He hit him about 3 times. By the time that kid hit the ground, he had a broken jaw, and he didn't graduate from boot camp. Schmitty got arrested. And like a week later, they just quietly took him to the airport and put him on a plane to Texas, and we all flew out together. So I guess that's a little CYA.
Loud noises!
Keep your voice down, please. Keep your voice down.
I've not yet begun to defile myself.
And when you start, they'll let you do it. You can do it.
At Chaz Design Build, our tagline is building a better world, one remodeled home at a time. Simply stated, we want to be a part of the solution to leave the world better than we found it. That's why we've invested in a 20 kilowatt solar array, which provides over 90% of our electrical demand at our shop, office, and design studio. And that's why we invest in local causes which provide opportunities and which confront structural inequality. At Chaz Design Build, we are proud to partner with you, building a better world, one remodeled home at a time.
Gifting season is upon us, and here's an opportunity to spread the holiday joy. Ethical Trading Company is fighting to end human trafficking in the poorest areas of the world by providing a marketplace for artisans who have been freed from modern-day slavery or avoid being trafficked through this partnership. As a volunteer-ran nonprofit, every dollar spent in our physical or online store makes an impact in ridding the world of exploitation and in the lives of our artisans to perform dignified work. Check out our wide range of fair trade gifts by going to ethicaltradeco.com. Again, that's ethicaltradeco.com.
You are listening to WTTN 1580 AM Columbus, W224 EG Madison, always streaming on the Devil Radio app.
AP News. I'm Ed Donahue. President Biden is in Kansas City, Missouri, pushing his big infrastructure plans. He says for people tired about hearing about infrastructure week.
Guess what? It's going to be infrastructure decade now, man. No more talking. Action.
Earlier, before leaving the White House for Missouri, the president said there will be severe consequences for Russia if Vladimir Putin tries to attack Ukraine. The U.S., Australia, Britain, and now Canada are announcing a diplomatic boycott of the Beijing Winter Olympics. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says it's a message to China.
We have been very clear over the past many years of our deep concerns around human rights violations, and this is a continuation of us expressing our deep concerns for human rights violations.
A car was submerged in water near the brink of Niagara Falls. A body was pulled out of the water. New York State Police say it was a woman in her 60s. The manslaughter trial of former Minnesota police officer Kim Potter is underway. Dante Wright was shot and killed during a traffic stop. Potter said she thought she had a taser in her hand. It was a gun. Defense attorney Paul Eng said Wright was not cooperative.
This is all legitimate. This is all legitimate police work. And all Mr. Wright had to do was surrender on the warrant.
Also testifying today, Wright's mother, Katie Wright.
And I was like, what's wrong? And she said that they shot him. And she faced the phone towards the driver's seat.
More than 40 cases of the Omicron variant have been reported in the U.S. so far, most of them people who were vaccinated. On Wall Street, stocks finished higher, the Dow up 35 points. This is AP News. Employers post.
Tried Eucrisa for mild to moderate eczema? It works at and below the skin surface and can be used on almost everybody, like on the dimples of a diva. Yeah, roll your boat. Yeah, roll your boat. Or the shoulders of a chef. Look, Mom, I made jelly beans on toast. Steroid-free Eucrisa works at and below the skin surface. It blocks PDE4 enzymes, which is believed to reduce inflammation, even on the wrist of a rebel.
What did you do to your hair?
What?
The specific way Eucrisa works is not well defined. Prescription Eucrisa for mild to moderate eczema is for topical use only in ages 3 months and up. Do not use if you are allergic to Eucrisa, crisaborole ointment 2%, or its ingredients. Allergic reactions, including hives, itching, swelling, and redness, may occur at or near the application site. The most common side effect is application site pain, such as burning or stinging.
Come on, moms and dads. Check out eucrisa.com and ask your doctor about Eucrisa. Can I sing one more song?
Stay informed with progressive news and talk on Double Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, Wanakee's choice for essential radio.
Hey, I'm here from Knuckleheads. Have you seen our new location yet? Come on down to 520 State Street for all your CBD needs. We have a huge selection of gummies, oils, and a variety of other CBD products. We also have a gigantic walk-in humidor. The knowledgeable staff at Knuckleheads will work with you to find exactly what you need. Mention Double Radio at checkout to get 15% off your next order. Knuckleheads, now at 520 State Street. We'll see you there.
Wisconsin. You know that Drew Holiday and Brooke Lopez are champions on the court, but did you know they're also champions for our community?
Hey, Wisconsinites, Drew Holiday here. And Brooke Lopez here. I love being a champion. And today I'm asking you to be a champion citizen. Defend your right to vote and exercise your freedom to vote. It's more important now than ever because politicians are trying to restrict our freedom to vote. They're worried about our power, so they want to take it away. Don't let them do that. You've got to block that shot.
Paid for by the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign.
600,000 Wisconsin families are receiving checks to help take care of their kids thanks to the expanded child tax credit passed by Joe Biden and congressional Democrats. Ron Johnson voted against these checks for Wisconsin families despite voting for a 2017 tax break that put more money into the pockets of millionaires like himself. It's time to vote Ron Johnson out of office. MoveOn.org political action, paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Poll.moveon.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Devil Radio 92.7 FM, covering all the malarkey you can handle.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. On Tuesday, the Madison Parks Division began tagging tents and other property in Rindell Park to notify individuals still residing in the park that they have 48 hours to remove the property. The city and county have been working to relocate the nearly 80 individuals living in the homeless encampment that formed in the park throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. The city has partnered with the same Eastside Hotel that Dane County has been using to contract renting hotel rooms to temporarily house individuals from the park, along with constructing a tiny home village off Dairy Drive on the city's southeast side to offer more temporary housing for homeless individuals. visuals. Potential for snow flurries this morning with partly cloudy skies and winds up to 10 miles an hour. High today of 28 degrees. Cloudy skies expected to roll in this evening with winds up to 15 miles an hour and an overnight low of 20 degrees. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Devil Radio programming is produced live in the Solidarity Realty Studios. Find them at solidarityrealty.com. Solidarity Realty. There is an alternative.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the Devil Radio Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Here is your host, Mike Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. I promised you a whopper of a Wednesday edition. Hour 2, the 4 o'clock happy hour, and it commences right now with a friend of mine. He is Wisconsin State Senator Jon Erpanbach. Jon, welcome back to the big show.
Thanks. How you doing?
Well, Jon, I was doing okay this morning, and I was actually working at my computer, and I saw a headline flash from WisPolitics. And then moments later, I got a phone call. Jon, you were the talk of the town. The fact that you are not running for re-election, Jon, it's got all the tongues wagging. Why now, Jon? Why you?
It's a slow news day. And the question is why now, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's because I mean it's really not too complicated. I've been thinking about it for a little while, and once you start thinking about it, you probably need to stop doing it. So the timing for me personally is good. There's obviously more you want to do, and I still love the job, and I've got a great district. It's the heart of the state. But at the same time, when you're thinking about quitting, you probably should. So that's why now. I mean, there's nothing planned in the future. I haven't really given a thought to what's going to happen when my term's up. But for me personally, now is a good time to step aside and let somebody else give it a shot.
Jon, you and I've known you. I live in the community of Middleton. You live in the community of Middleton. I've dropped my daughter off at your house and seen you pick up your daughter for mine through the years. Jon, you're one of the closest politicians I feel most close to you, at least in proximity. Jon, I also know that you've had a little bit of a life change in the last couple of years here. You're newlywed, married. I guess you're a newlywed, Jon, or at least relatively speaking.
I think we're coming up on, I should know the answer to this, I think 6 years.
Oh, no, it's been that long, Jon? Well, I've known you for quite some time, Jon.
Yeah.
So it's not to spend more time with family, Jon?
No, actually, Christine, my wife, is in Florida, and I go back and forth when I can, and I'll be able to go back and forth a little bit more now. But I'm a Wisconsin kid, born and raised, and this is home, and my family's here, my kids, my mom and dad, and you want to stay close to them as much as you possibly can. But yeah, I've been down to see Christine, quite a few times over like a long weekend, and got to tell you, this time of year, it's kind of nice to grab a beach and take a walk, isn't it?
I got to say it is, Jon. I'm looking forward to traveling soon. So let me ask you, Senator Jon Erpanbach, who announced today he will not seek re-election. He is effectively retiring from the state Senate at the end of his term. But Jon, what's next, man? What professionally, what are you going to do next? I know you got a background in media and radio, Jon.
Yeah. I don't know. I know all I can tell you is I know I won't be in the state Senate anymore, but that doesn't mean that somewhere down the line, whether it be sooner than later or later than sooner, I wouldn't certainly close the door on running for something else someday. It just depends on what it is and what's going on in life at that point in time. I certainly miss radio. I mean, you and I have had that discussion I don't know how many times. And I miss talking to listeners, but at the same time, one way or another, I was raised in public service. My mom taught in Wanakee for about 30 years, and my dad taught in Middleton, and then worked at the Department of Public Instruction for several decades, it seems. So public service is something that our family's always done, and in one form or another, I'd like to continue doing that.
Jon, do you ever miss civil discourse with those that don't, let's say, ideologically think the very same way we do? I mean, I remember in the state of Wisconsin, I've been doing business for a lot of years in this state. And Jon, I never asked a single person, are you a Democrat or a Republican before I cashed their check? But that has changed. And it perhaps changed with the governorship of Scott Walker. He divided and conquered us in a matter of speaking. He pitted the rural against the urban and the teachers against the private sector. Jon, do you think politics have changed here in the state of Wisconsin?
Yeah, to that extent, it has. And you're absolutely right. When things started to change here, it was Act 10 and that debate. And we didn't have to leave the state, but we did because they didn't want to have the debate. They just wanted to pass it. And something that significant, along with other things that were in Act 10, needed to be thoroughly vetted. People needed to be able to chime in on it. We needed to hold substantial public hearings on it. And here's the deal. There was no rush to do that. There wasn't. He could have done it in the regular budget. But that aside, that kind of started the whole road, I think, that we're on right now. You remember the recall petitions and the Walker administration removing people who they nominated. I remember there was a kid they nominated to be the student representative to the Board of Regents, and they withdrew the nomination because he had signed the recall petition. And that became a list of whether you're either for me or against me. And we're talking about half the state here. We're not talking about a quarter of the state. We're talking about half of the state who didn't want the governor to do this, and half of the state who wanted the governor to do this. So that you can't, whether you're a state senator, state representative, governor, whatever it is, you can't govern just to the people, just to enough of the people to get you elected. Once you're elected, man, it's everybody. And in my district, I've probably had more discussions with people I disagree with, or they disagree with me, than I've had with people who agree with what I'm doing. But for me personally, the only way to grow in that kind of job, whether it's, again, state senate, whatever it is to be able to listen and try and understand why people might disagree with you. And then you look for a way to sort of bridge that divide. And right now, there's no way to bridge that divide because everybody is talking over everybody else. And if we're not going to take the time to try and understand why people think the way they think, or they're not going to take the time to try and understand why, we've got a problem. And then the other problem we got is the Republican Party as a whole just has to get its act together. And the reason why I'm saying that is because the majority of the Republicans I know don't believe the election was stolen. The majority of the Republicans I know do not approve of what Gableman is doing right now. But they're not the ones in charge of the Republican Party. The minority of the Republican Party, I think, is driving the bus right now. So that party itself it's got to get its act together before, too much damage is done here.
Folks, you are listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. I've got my Wisconsin State Senator. He is Jon Erpanbach. He's a friend of ours. We appreciate you joining us today, Jon. Let me ask you about Gableman and this threat being leveled against Democratic mayors of Madison, where, I guess we both live adjacent to Madison, and Green Bay. And this seems very witch hunty. He wants to exert his authority even through questionable subpoenas and apparently through jailing mayors. It's all ludicrous. What's your opinion of sort of the state of the state, if that makes sense, Jon? This is crazy that people are threatening prosecutions, against Wisconsin elections commissioners for, God forbid, giving guidance during a pandemic, or for the mayors for not giving testimony at a rental share office somewhere without transcripts and public oversight. What do you say, Senator?
Well, the first thing I want to comment on this is Robin Voss's idea, and Robin Voss has lost total control of this sideshow. He has absolutely no control, and if he tries to step in and rein Gableman back, then the hardcore to the far right Republicans will slam Robin Vos. So that's the pickle he's in right now, but that's something he created, and he's gonna have to deal with that one way or the other. But overall, what the former justice is doing is nothing short of McCarthyism. I mean, that's all it is. These are empty threats. They're designed to grab headlines. They're designed to feed the base of the minority of the Republican Party, and that's all they are. He can't put the justice or the mayors in jail. He can't do that. He doesn't necessarily have the subpoena power he thinks he has. And from every step of the way, the mayor of Madison and the mayor of Green Bay have offered to cooperate in public. So, you know, it's crazy. It makes us look beyond silly. I mean, it just makes us look silly. But more importantly, Robin Vos has a responsibility here. This was his idea after he talked to Donald Trump, and it was supposed to be this, 1 or 2 month investigation and take a look at things. And now he has lost total control of this. And he's in a tough, I don't care that he's in a tough spot because he created it, but he's in a tough spot right now.
Now, John, I recall when Republicans wanted to have you and your Democratic colleagues arrested. You were the Wisconsin 14, I believe they called you. You guys snuck off across the state line, sort of a parliamentary trick to block quorum here in the state. And then Republicans used their own parliamentarian tricks to pass it through, John, while you guys were gone. But was that your most memorable time as a state senator?
It is my most memorable time, but it's also not, believe it or not my proudest time. Like I said before, had we gone through the proper legislative channels, Act 10 might have changed, it might not, I don't know, but it was certainly something that we all should have done. There's a legislative process in place when something's introduced, and you can't introduce it one day and expect it to be law the following week, especially something that significant. I mean, we were talking earth-shaking significance here in the state of Wisconsin, so we had to do what we had to do. But the proudest moments legislatively, we passed something called Healthy Wisconsin before the Affordable Care Act became law out in D.C. And we worked on that for a very long time, held a hearing on it, several roundtables around the state, and so on. And it was a kind of a precursor to the Affordable Care Act. And there are actually some aspects of what we passed in the Affordable Care Act. And to me, that was something that I was proud of. And it did have Republican support. When I worked with a Republican state senator to reform the former Ethics Commission and Elections Commission, and we turned it into a panel of retired judges, nonpartisan retired judges. They, they don't have skin in the game. They just follow the law. And the Republicans changed that to what we have today. And now they want to get rid of what we have today, which is what they created. Yeah.
Senator, we're completely out of time. Jon Erpanbach, don't be a stranger. We'll have you back soon, sir. Thank you for your time.
Hey, anytime. Good to catch up.
Thanks, John. Come back. More Devils.
Close our eyes for good.
Now that it's over, I don't know what to do with the rest of my life.
How about a Fresca?
19, brought to you by CDC and the Ad Council.
Feeling increasingly lonely right now? You're not alone. Try joining a virtual book club or scheduling an online coffee break with coworkers to connect.
Find more self-care and coping tips at coping-19.org.
600,000 Wisconsin families are receiving checks to help take care of their kids thanks to the expanded child tax credit passed by Joe Biden and congressional Democrats. Ron Johnson voted against these checks for Wisconsin families, despite voting for a 2017 tax break that put more money into the pockets of millionaires like himself. It's time to vote Ron Johnson out of office. MoveOn.org political action, paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertisement. Poll.moveon.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
President Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates. He would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org.
Stories come to life at your local parks and forests. They're places of wonder, and they're closer than you think. Make the forest part of your story today at a local park near you, or find one at discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Hi, Don from Wisco Home Goods here. Jeremy and I handcraft our 100% non-toxic candles from locally sourced materials in our Madison, Wisconsin facility. Wisco Home Goods candles come in a variety of unique blends and scents that you're sure to love. Add a little warmth to your home as the days get colder with one of our Midnight Cypress or Up North candles. Order at wiscohomegoods.com. Natural, healthy, nourishing candles and more at wiscohomegoods.com.
When they go low, we get high. The Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Welcome back from the 420 break. Jon Erpanbach, my state senator right here in the great state of Wisconsin, gonna miss that guy. He announced today he will not seek re-election. Appreciate Jon coming around. Fancy, I did have one more question for Jon. I wanted to ask him, did the redistricting, the gerrymandering in the state of Wisconsin, did that factor in to his math and to his decision-making process to not seek re-election? But I think I know the answer because we don't have maps yet. Jon doesn't even know what district he'd be in. Doesn't even know if he's been gerrymandered out of his own district yet. So I can't think it's the maps. And I've known Jon for a long time, and Middleton's a fairly overwhelmingly Democratic place. Has been since I moved there. And I think he'd soundly win re-election. I don't think he'd have any trouble. The last guy to run against Erpanbach? Another buddy of mine.
Oh, really?
Hellbach. The maskless coffee shop. You may not wear a mask during a mask mandate during a pandemic in my coffee shop. Well, he technically ran against Erpanbach for the state Senate seat.
What's great is that I remember that name,
Casey Hellbach,
and not because of the coffee.
I used to golf with the guy.
Sometimes people just go, what happened, man?
I don't know what happened.
Like, I was talking to you and you were I have a buddy of mine who now does his own research with some kook guy that was kicked out of a university.
I always like Casey and his family, and they teach their own kids, and they're religious people. His wife is the daughter of a preacher, and I understand the religious overtones of the family. And then they started doing the Jesus lunch at the high school in Middleton, and I mean, even my kid tells me, I go eat Melissa's food occasionally, and they proselytize to the kids out in the Fireman's Park, and apparently that's okay. But my kid eats the food, and he hasn't become a Jesus lover per se, not, based on Melissa's good cooking, although she's a hell of a cook. But Casey Hellbach, my old golfing buddy from decades ago, was the guy that ran against Erpanbach, and Casey, in the meantime, went all anti-vaxxer, anti-masker during the pandemic and closed down his coffee shop. Now, I don't know what they're doing now. He doesn't return my calls.
Well, there's a church leader right now telling us that the vaccine is full of bioluminescence so they can track us. Okay.
Well, the blood of Christ will protect you.
Sure.
Quick headline, and this one is breaking news over at CNN. Mark Meadows, the Chief's chief, the former president's chief of staff, Mark Meadows, wrote a new tell-all book and had claimed he was going to give some testimony to the January 6th committee. And hell, he even gave them like a 39-page PowerPoint presentation on alternative realities, sort of a deal. Now, that's what he willingly gave over. And there was apparently some, let's call it, evidence included that he was texting with, let's call it, Republican Congress people. And he was trying to keep those away, but someone must release the other end of the text messages. So now Meadows has kind of been exposed, right? And then his attorneys have decided, well, they're going to pull back. They're not going to cooperate with the January 6th committee. So the January 6th committee, considering whether they're moving forward with contempt, seeking for the Department of Justice to take, sort of the Steve Bannon, Jeffrey Clark treatment with Mark Meadows. And then there's this breaking news over at CNN. Mark Meadows sues House January 6th committee and Nancy Pelosi. Sounds very Trumpian.
Pretty much.
Who Cohn? Roy Cohn, the guy that basically said, attack on all fronts. And Donald Trump has used the courts as a offensive weapon. Litigation always been an offensive weapon for the former president. Well, Mark Meadows was his chief of staff. I think he's learned one thing, which is, sue everybody. And the interesting part is, how's that going to play out during depositions? Didn't Mark Meadows just open himself up to complete and utter scrutiny? I mean, if you sue the January 6th committee, well, they can also do discovery. And what are you suing them for? To shield your former boss claims of executive privilege, which do not exist because the executive privilege goes with the presidency, and the current president says, no, you don't get any executive privilege. I'm not sure what he's suing over. I wonder if he's got like Sidney Powell or Lynn Wood or maybe Rudy Giuliani, although I hear he's recently disbarred. I wonder who's the lawyer on behalf of Mark Meadows dropping this lawsuit against the January 6th committee. And, if you're suing people, well, of course, sue Nancy Pelosi as well. According to CNN, the complaint has not yet been filed on the court's online docket. So there is a threatened lawsuit, but no proof of a lawsuit yet. But the story is breaking and will be updated. And I'll update you, our fair audience, if we get more word about the meritless lawsuit. I suspect meritless. Mark Meadows is dropping against the House committee and, Nancy Pelosi. Sue somebody. Go into the phones, 844-967-2789. Wisco Paul, how you been, Paul?
Yeah, I'm doing okay, Crudy. I was just curious, as far as the January 6th hearings, are they going to look at any of these guys that were behind this? Because it goes from Trump on down, and it just seems like they're going to drag this out until the 2022 elections. And I got one other quick one that you can answer later here. What's the chances of us even getting any chance for any kind of decent maps in the state? And that's my two questions, because it's very frustrating watching this whole thing for me. It's like, Jesus, it's I don't know, if the shoe was on the other foot, I'm sure somebody'd be going to jail. So.
Wisco Paul, I don't mean to harsh your buzz. The map circumstance here in the state of Wisconsin, it is desperate straits. I saw Dave Cheslevic, the former mayor of Madison, Wisconsin, wrote an op-ed and said effectively Tony Evers blew any chance at fair maps. He could have leveraged the last two Republican submitted budgets and said, unless you put a nonpartisan redistricting commission, I'm vetoing the budget. It's a lot of things Tony could have done. Cheslevic said he should have done, but instead he bet on a Republican Supreme Court Justice, Brian Hagedorn. That was a bad bet, Tony. No, we're screwed.
I don't think Jesus would be very happy with Donald Trump one bit at all.
Boy. I'm so glad you're listening to Devil Radio. It makes me so happy.
Hi, this is Brad from Zero Res. If you need someone to help with your carpet cleaning, business or residence, please give us a call. We have the best system available and an amazing team of friendly technicians. Call us at 848-9000 or schedule online at zeroresmadison.com.
This is Chad Spate. Are you thinking about improving or expanding your home? At Chad's Design Build, we're committed to making your home comfortable, healthy, attractive, durable, and sustainable. In fact, those commitments spell our name. And we deliver these services with our outstanding team of professionals who will respect you and your home. Visit our website at chadsdesignbuild.com to learn more about how we are building a better world, one remodeled home at a time.
Is your smartphone really a smartphone if it doesn't have the Devil Radio app? No, it isn't. Download the Devil Radio app in the Apple or Google Play Store and listen to the greatest radio station ever whenever you're on the go or stationary or whatever. It doesn't matter. The Devil Radio app streams.
Smollett trial goes to the jury. I'm Jackie Quinn with an AP News Minute.
A Chicago jury is now deliberating the fate of actor Jussie Smollett on charges he staged a racist, anti-gay attack on himself for publicity. Smollett, on the stand, testified he was the victim of a hate crime. The defense is presenting its case to the jury in the trial of former police officer Kim Potter in Minnesota, who shot Dante Wright during a traffic stop. Her lawyer says Potter's body cam video shows she did not mean to use her gun, but prosecutor Aaron Eldridge says that's not relevant.
Intent is not an element of any of the charges at issue here.
The Senate's poised to approve a resolution overturning the Biden administration's requirement that businesses with more than 100 workers mandate that they get COVID vaccines. President Biden's in Kansas City, still pushing his social spending bill.
Hear what the communities that they live in, what they need.
Stocks ended higher again today. I'm Jackie Quinn.
Tried Eucrisa for mild to moderate eczema? It works at and below the skin surface and can be used on almost everybody, like on the dimples of a diva. Yeah, roll your boat. Yeah, roll your boat. Or the shoulders of a chef. Look, Mom, I made jelly beans on toast. Steroid-free Eucrisa works at and below the skin surface. It blocks PDE4 enzymes, which is believed to reduce inflammation, even on the wrist of a rebel.
What did you do to your hair?
What?
The specific way Eucrisa works is not well defined. Prescription Eucrisa for mild to moderate eczema is for topical use only in ages 3 months and up. Do not use if you are allergic to Eucrisa, crisaborole ointment 2%, or its ingredients. Allergic reactions, including hives, itching, swelling, and redness, may occur at or near the application site. The most common side effect is application site pain, such as burning or stinging.
Come on, moms and dads, check out eucrisa.com and ask your doctor about Eucrisa. Can I sing one more song?
For Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. 2 Dane County Board supervisors with conservative leanings will be holding an in-person town hall next week to receive public input on the county's current COVID-19 mask mandate. The public meeting will be held on December 13th in Mazomanie. All attendees must wear a mask per public health guidelines unless all attendees are vaccinated against COVID-19. 3 children remain hospitalized at Children's Hospital, Wisconsin after being injured during the Waukesha Christmas Parade on November 21st. All 3 children are in fair condition, according to the hospital on Tuesday. Roughly 45 workers employed at Raven Software, a video game development company based in Middleton, have staged a work stoppage this week after the firm's parent company announced layoffs for 12 coworkers last Friday. You're listening to Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Think you know politics? Think again. Welcome to the Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. We are rolling through the Wednesday 4 o'clock happy hour. Your calls, they're always appreciated here. Your opinions valued at 844-967-2789. Just to finish the thought, yes, we're screwed, Wisconsin. We are going to see gerrymandered maps for another decade. And any hope to not have gerrymandered maps for the next decade, all hope is lost. And here's what happened. I'm going to tell the story briefly, and then we're going to move on because there's some new tantalizing polling about why the Trump movement will soon die off, because nobody that supports Trump's ever getting laid again. But we'll get to that in just a moment. That's a little tease, if you will. But here in the state of Wisconsin, we were the victims, my characterization, of the most partisan gerrymandered maps, perhaps in the nation. And despite the fact that Democrats have more support overall, and I understand the whole dynamic between rural areas, and there's more rural areas that Republicans are successful in, and the Democrats more often live in the metro area. So I get that sort of dynamic. But ultimately, when Democrats get more votes and they only win a third of seats and Republicans win 2/3 of the seats, well, that's just a damn partisan gerrymander. And that's what we've been stuck with for a decade. And, you know, we were all feeling pretty good the night Tony Evers won re-election by about 31,000 votes against Scott Walker. Scott Walker is the one that signed the last partisan gerrymander. And Tony won the election in November of 2018. And then almost right away, there was a Wisconsin Supreme Court election. Lisa Neubauer was the, I guess she was the liberal choice. And there was no primary. She was the only opponent. So she didn't really go out and do any media. And she didn't come on Devil Radio. And, quite frankly, we didn't see her till about 3 weeks before the general election. And the Republicans had their candidate of choice. He was Scott Walker's former attorney, the guy that helped draft Act 10. I mean, some said he was a very extreme sort of guy. He had written some anti-LGBTQ stuff in the past. And they basically vilified him and did not uplift the liberal choice, let's just call her, Neubauer. Well, as fate would have it, it was a very close race here in the state of Wisconsin, as spring elections often are. And the liberal champion, Lisa Neubauer, although she's back on the Court of Appeals, she did not win a seat on the Wisconsin Supreme Court. And we basically lost the ability to affect the outcome of the gerrymander through the Wisconsin State Supreme Court. Oh, the margin of loss, 5,600 votes. I'm pretty clear there's more than that listening to my voice right now. So anyways, that's not the governor's fault. I could shake a fist at the Democratic Party and some of the consultants that ran Neubauer's campaign, but I've done that before. I don't want to relitigate. But the governor, Tony Evers, the Democrats' choice, well, he had some opportunity to stop this. And his only must-pass piece of legislation, because Tony Evers, the Democrats, they didn't get anything done. They've only got a third of the seats in the Assembly and the state Senate. No wonder why Jon Erpanbach wants out. Who wants to serve in that sort of minority? But you had the budget, Tony. And that was the document. And Wisco Paul, and I know you're probably listening out there somewhere on the roads, that was the document. That was Tony's only opportunity to do something to force Republicans to do something that the vast majority of Wisconsinites want. So if Tony basically had just simply vetoed the Republican budget and brought it back with only one amendment, a nonpartisan redistricting, and Republican voters, 56 of 72 counties in the state of Wisconsin have voted, in some cases overwhelmingly, Republicans, independents, Democrats. They all want to choose their politicians and not have the politicians choose their voters. Partisan gerrymander. Republicans don't want it either, not the rank and file, not the voters. So that would have put a lot of pressure on Robin Vos and the Republican legislative leadership team. If Tony said, I'll accept your Republican budget with one amendment, got to have a nonpartisan redistricting. Well, it didn't happen. Tony signed the Republican budget. And then 2 years later, he did it again. So as former Mayor Dave Cheslevic in Madison wrote a scathing op-ed of the governor, he said, basically, we're screwed. We're screwed. Tony Evers bet on what? The upstanding nature of a sometimes independent conservative judicial character, the Hagedorn we mentioned that won by the 5,600 votes. He's shown a little independence, but when the rubber hit the road on this issue of redistricting, he voted with his caucus, with the Republicans, with the conservatives on the Supreme Court and said, nah, we're going to take full control of this process and we're going to lock in the Republican maps effectively. And maybe the federal courts can overturn us, but good luck with that. So ultimately, it is the battle of the next decade in the state of Wisconsin, and I fear we've already lost. So there, 844-967-2789. I hate to tell you bad news, but sometimes you need to hear it. So here's some good news, and we'll take your calls at 844-967-2789.
I don't know. I feel like I want to puke right now.
Well, we're screwed. It's hard to swallow without puking.
I can't say that I, for one, I can't even jokingly say I, for one, would welcome our Republican overlords because we already have them. They're just going to continue being our Republican overlords.
Well, Robin Vos, who put Michael Gableman, who is this corrupted former Supreme Court justice, he is the Joseph McCarthy, out there doing the investigations of the last election that he's been claiming is rigged since it happened. A real fair character of this sort. Robin Vos effectively can be the Speaker of the Assembly of the state of Wisconsin in perpetuity. That means forever, just in case CJ is still listening.
But yet being in control of all of that, basically all the levers of power in the state
forever.
Yet, don't they run on complaining about how the government doesn't work?
Well, they have better candidates and better ideas, or so they tell us.
No, not at all.
Well, that's what they say. 844-967-2789. Now, here's the good news. The entire MAGA generation will die off soon because they are going to be unable to breed. And here's how I know that. There's some new polling out. Young Dems more likely to despise the other party. Despise, I tell you.
I was hoping you were going to say it's because they didn't know how, but let's move on.
I've heard the term, hate sex, but I'm telling you, I don't think there's too many Democrats out there going, oh man, I want to hate sex, that incel MAGA dude over there. Here it is. College students who would not blank someone who voted for the opposing presidential candidate go out on a date with, in this case, 71% of Democrats say, no way, Jose. Only 31% of Republicans would not go on a date with a Democrat. Because, when you're an incel, you basically try to keep all your options open, don't you?
I'm going to take you on a date, and I'm not going to call you back.
And we're going Dutch.
Dorothy Mann, this is saint.
Here's another one. College students who would not blank, shop at, or support a business owner, apparently, who voted for the opposing presidential candidate. 41% of Democrats said you can't even be supportive of the former president as a business. Only 7% of Republicans have that same issue. 37% said I can't even be friends with the Trumpster. Only 5% of Republicans have the same issue with Biden supporting or Democrats. Hell, 30% of Democrats won't even work for a Republican or a Trumpster in this case.
Or do they know that they aren't?
This polling from Generation Lab Axios. Why it matters. Partisan divides as each side inhabits parallel political, cultural, and media universes makes a future of discord and distrust in the U.S. all the more likely. There's not going to be a lot of loving or knocking boots going on either, I suspect. By the numbers, 5% of Republicans said they wouldn't be friends with someone from the opposite party, compared to 37% of Democrats. And 71% of Democrats, I know I'd mentioned this, wouldn't go on a date with someone with opposing views. Just 31% of Republicans, basically close their options as such. And if we read between the lines, Democrats argue that the modern GOP positions, spearheaded by the former President Trump, are far outside the mainstream in polite conversation. Some have expressed unyielding positions on matter of identity, including abortion, LGBTQ rights, and immigration, where they argue human rights and not just policy differences are at stake. And women are more likely than men to take a strong partisan stance in their personal choices. 41% of women would go on a date with someone who voted for the opposing candidate, compared to 67% of men. Men are dogs. 76% of men, women would work for someone who voted for the other candidate. Well, 86% of men would. And just 68% of women, compared to 84% of men, would shop or support a business of someone from the other party. You can support Devil Radio. We're sort of independent thinking minded here. At least we'd like to think so. So that's your good news, folks. Republicans are soon going to end because they're not going to be able to breed, except amongst themselves.
Yeah, but the ones that do tend to breed a lot. Like a lot.
The rich get richer, the poor have babies.
I don't know. I'm just talking about, I'm just referring to Duffy and friends.
844-967-2789. We welcome back conservative CJ. Buddy, I bet you have a hard time getting laid, don't you?
Well, no, that's not an issue, actually. But, I can understand.
Your hand does not count, CJ.
Focus somewhere else. You're so worried. You guys should be worried about the midterms because your party, your president, your Congress, your Senate has accomplished absolutely nothing other than destroy our economy.
CJ, we've already passed one infrastructure bill. We passed the American Rescue Plan. And last time I checked, Donald Trump's still bemoaning the fact that it's infrastructure week and he never passed anything. So don't tell me the Dems didn't get
your
anything done. There's two major legislative accomplishments. Watch something other than Fox News, CJ.
I watch a lot of news, and you guys are deflecting because you know you're going to get just annihilated in the midterms, and you should.
I
When
could
look at
agree
what
with you,
haven't
CJ.
accomplished, Afghanistan, to the border, to inflation, to you name something that he's really
Unemployment
done
rate.
well at.
How about the unemployment rate, CJ? Historically low unemployment rate, 4.2%. We are at full employment as a country.
And your party sounds angrier than ever.
I'm not angry.
I
get laid, CJ. Thank you for your time. 844-967-2789. Jeannie from Eau Claire. Welcome back, Jean. What do you got for us?
Murder, lies, deception, insurrection, abuse of power. Let me go on and on about those F you know what me Republicans.
Ooh, easy, Jeannie.
Give me a break.
You're going to get thrown out of the bar in Waukesha.
I didn't say the word, though. I just said F. So you can take it as what you want. I am sick of those big mouth lying sacks of you know what, destroying our country, killing off people. Oh, I can't wear a mask, and messing up all the youngsters that are in school that have to see these idiots and putrid people promoting this sickle type of environment. And that's the way I feel. My ears are steaming. It's just sick. So he can go and stick his head in a hole and continue living like he does, because he don't know what the heck's going on, and obviously he don't give a rat's butt. So sorry, guys, but thank you so much for letting me spew this one, because this is just frustrating. Thanks, guys. You have a good day.
Thank you, nearly profane Jeannie from Eau Claire, our pal. You could be like Jeannie, just don't drop any F-bombs. Effing. We can say effing. And bastard. Apparently, we can say bastard on the radio. We do that quite a bit. But at anything beyond that, you're crossing lines, and you might get shut down. You know, like Tom did to me and Dom in the bar in Waukesha last night. You may not be profane on this radio show. Just think it loudly. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates, many more of your phone calls. 844-967-2789.
We have seen a small increase in deaths, which is a good thing.
To me, this is a very, very sexy subject.
Being a father is an honor, a challenge, a duty, a celebration, and a testimony. I want to be legendary for you because I found everything to live for.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
600,000 Wisconsin families are receiving checks to help take care of their kids thanks to the expanded child tax credit passed by Joe Biden and congressional Democrats. Ron Johnson voted against these checks for Wisconsin families despite voting for a 2017 tax break that put more money into the pockets of millionaires like himself. It's time to vote Ron Johnson out of office. MoveOn.org political action, paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Poll.moveon.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Spruce up your home with non-toxic vegan candles from Wisco Home Goods. I'm Don, one of the owners of this family-owned Midwestern business in Madison, Wisconsin. Our candles are 100% sustainable and come in a variety of unique blends and scents that make a perfect holiday gift. Plus, at Wisco Home Goods, we believe in giving back. With our Do Good, Smell Good campaign, a portion of the proceeds go to local charities. So support a Midwestern company that supports our local communities. Order now at wiscohomegoods.com.
My Shiro always goes the extra mile, stretches every dollar, puts others first. But now it's your time, Mom. Get free tips to help boost your retirement savings now at aceretirement.org.
Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
I'm Kirk Bankstad, and I own the Minocqua Brewing Company in deep red northern Wisconsin, and I have a super PAC. We make good trouble by buying billboards, radio ads, and calls to voters in northern Wisconsin. We target federal and state elections, think Ron Johnson and Tom Tiffany, and concentrate on a fair redistricting process. Give a donation now if you're able at the MinocquaBrewingCompany.com Super PAC tab. Help us make the politics of the Northwoods as clean as our lakes and streams. That's the MinocquaBrewingCompany.com Super PAC tab.
Warning, listening to the Devil's Advocates may expose you to opposing views.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. You know, Fancy Brian, I don't know why you don't believe that CJ has a very sexy girlfriend in the Niagara Falls region. She's not on social media. You won't find her there.
But you know, you know what? I got to take that back. I recently found out some information on somebody who's maybe an octogenarian at this point that has a very sexually active lifestyle that I was not aware of before this time. And I got to tell you, I would not have put this person in that situation, but they were there and I heard about it and I know that visual in my mind now and it can't go away. But I do have to say that I can report those seniors really do have a wonderful life. So
well, the lucky ones do.
I'm only saying that because CJ seems a little bit older in that way. I don't know how old you specifically are, CJ, and I'm just guessing here.
Old enough to know better and too old to get laid. I had actually read, and I swear, and my memory is usually pretty good, although not perfect. I had read that Republicans effectively, by choice, stop having sex at a certain age. They like shut her down. Oh, I'm retired now. I don't have sex anymore. Democrats don't have those same quads.
That is until they get to retirement homes, because I know retirement homes have a really bad problem with sexually transmitted diseases. If you go into a retirement home, they have a lot of prophylactics available.
844-967-2789. Even I feel like that was too much information. Terry from up north there. Hey, welcome, Terry. What do you got for us?
Matt McNeil from your sister station, 950 AM.
Yes, sir.
Said, we have crazies over in Minnesota. We just don't have them in leadership like you do in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
That's the way he explained it. So I guess I can't argue with that.
No,
I think he pretty much nailed it.
It would be hard to argue that point, Terry. Not only do, you know, and the most powerful Republicans in the state of Wisconsin, guys, and we reference this Robin Voss all the time, Boss Voss. Well, he's no moron. He's a very smart and strategic guy. He knows what he's doing. But I would say there's this whole backbench crew, and they're kind of like the Matt Gaetzes of state government. Shea Sortwell comes to mind, and Rantham. There's a few others. I mean, Terry, we got people you wouldn't allow to carry the groceries from the grocery store to your car. You wouldn't trust the guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they've been elected to state governance here in the state of Wisconsin. They're working on $70 billion biannual budgets. You know, but I wouldn't trust the guy with a quarter.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you, Crudy. You know, I'm calling from Joe Biden country, of course. You know,
how far up north are you, man? Is that Canada? Where is Joe Biden country?
No.
Somewhere north of Wausau there, hey?
Actually, we have Janet Bewley, a Democratic senator, in the district, but we have a Republican. This is Tom Tiffany country. The Congressman Tiffany.
Toxic Tom.
But Toxic Tom, yeah. So it's tough to live up here. I need to be down where you guys are at, but that, I don't know. If it's frightening. It's frightening.
Well, Terry, sorry to cut you short, man. They don't even let you swear at the bars down here. I know I can go up to the Northwoods and I can swear as much as I want to. Hell, it's encouraged. 844-967-2789. The woods of northern Wisconsin filled with the sound of profanities. Dick from Madison, welcome back.
Is this, it almost sounds like a Ruth Westheimer show tonight, talking about all this stuff that you're talking about. But to that mental giant,
I'm not giving advice so much as just chastising Republicans as, completely non-sexual beings, because who would want to sleep with jacknuts?
Oh, Dick, you need to go to the garage and make sure you take care of yourself. Very nice.
Well, no, that isn't what I call it. To the mental giant from Stoughton, are you proud of a party that, you got Meadows now who pulls back, says, no, I can't talk, but writes a book about everything that went down. And then you got Roger Stone who pleads the fifth through his. CJ, do you think you could plead the fifth and not even show up and just mail it in like this guy?
Well, he's already been pardoned, Dick. He's already been pardoned from his prior crimes. Why should he have to show up and stand trial, or at least, give public testimony on new crimes?
This whole group is just such an absolute joke. What justice is there in this country when you've got people from January 6th still, walking the streets? You got people like Matt Gaetz walking the streets. They should all be in prison for a good long time.
Well, left to his own devices, Matt Gaetz is going to prison, Dick. So, there's that to look forward to. I feel quite confident. Trump may never go to prison, or Trump Jr. or Eric or Ivanka or Jared or any of the Trump family members. And that would be, a crushing end to my existence to find out none of them went to jail. But Matt Gaetz, he's going to prison. Mark from the Sack, man, welcome back. I can give you like a minute, brother.
Hey, brother. It's a shame that these Republicans, some of these Republicans are celebrating the birth of the Prince of Peace with the display that they're putting on. I mean, they're trying to own the libs. And to CJ, you can pucker up, man. I mean, that you're celebrating, that Republicans stonewalling and being in charge of everything for a while. Yet they failed to deliver anything of substance to the people of the state of Wisconsin. Yeah, Scott Walker delivered his Foxconn. Thanks a lot, buddy.
Well, that'll only cost us for a generation. Mark, appreciate your call, man. Sorry to cut you short today. I was thinking about it just for a moment. I honestly, on reflection, think CJ probably does get a little action, because Wednesday night, CJ's night in the barrel. Someone's got to be on the receiving end of the glory hole. Still counts. Thank you to my fine guest, my state senator from the great state of Wisconsin, Jon Erpanbach. John, we're going to miss you, but he's not dead yet. And he's got a beautiful wife down in Florida, and I hope he's going to see her soon. I'm going on Fox News on the 19th. We'll keep you posted, dates and times. Mark your calendars.
I've said that if Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her.
Is this a dating video?
I have no idea. I find it sexy.